bot lanes get taken off the board early in terms of the draft phase, we already have a lot of combos gone. So Ashe Seraphine is off the table because the Seraphine's off the table. Ezreal is gone for anyone's legend as well. Varus, obviously a flex pick for both of these teams going topside as we highlighted. Bot lane is going to be where my eyes go. First pick is going to be massive. Ryze is available here. That would be a pretty easy standard first pick to go for. Plenty of counterable options, but
wow,
pardon me, Lucian Milio is on the table and you can't really let NIP have that. They're going to take the Milio part of it first.
Assuming that there is no way that NIP would slam the Lucian without their Milio, without Nami either, I guess the other combo you could try and potentially do is something like Lucian Lulu, which is like super old school, like SKT Season 5 with Bang and Wolf in the lineup. But NIP know how valuable Lucian is, not just to deny it away from the Milio combo, but also this is Awesom's best champion. He has defined the bot lane meta here in LPL with it, and slowly the rest of the world around it as well. And for NIP to decide, how can we counter champion that is not only ranged and an enchanter, but will also cleanse any CC post level 6? Well, why not go for a champion whose main CC is in knockups?
Too much CC to cleanse. That's the unfortunate part. One of the things I really wanted to track, though, is the Nautilus gets locked in. Lucian, obviously, much weaker with an Engager because you don't get that same level of lane priority, but theoretically should be better for the comp overall. If you're using Lucian as more of an assassin that can be proactive on the map, you can definitely still get a lot out of him, and we trust Awesome on that pick. But Pantheon went through the entire pick ban phase in game number 1. That is something you very rarely see coming out of anyone's legend in particular. They love to get this for Tarzan. I was really kind of leaning towards this being a Neferi angle for Tarzan, just get him onto something he can carry with, but Pantheon basically does that while also offering utility, and with Ryze still on the table, you can go for one of the best mid-jungle duos in the game if you wanted right now. Yeah,
I mean, Pantheon is the #1 ban champion against anyone's legend so far in this second split. So AL are going to now try to make that pay off for them by having a champion that allows them to just be super aggressive, super mobile on the map. Sivir is the combo that they're going to pair with this Milio, which once again another safe laner for Hope with that spell shield and the on-demand access to powerful wave clear. Guwon is ready to throw down the gauntlet though in the jungle by slamming the Lee Sin.
I think Lee is a great pick for Guwon, and you have so much early pressure obviously with the Lucian. My concern is that you've taken a weaker Lucian lane with the Nautilus, at least in terms of the 2v2. The Sivir Milio's going to have free push because of the wave clear that you have access to even pretty early on from the Sivir. And I think Lee Sin into Pantheon is quite tough to play. I think that's a matchup that's really difficult to try to find advantages on. Pantheon's going to have a big macro advantage, and basically anytime Lee Sin runs into him, he has to be really scared because Pantheon can lock him down. So I think this is a tough start for NIP. I certainly don't think AL have done everything perfect. This Sivir is not exactly the most aggressive AD carry that you can go for here, but notably with the mid lane bans coming through, you're trying to take away a lot of those options that can link up and basically neutralize Lee Sin's weakness to the macro game against Pantheon. Something like the Ryze is off the board. Talia is much stronger on the new patch than she was previously. She's one of the few champions that actually really does feel significantly better in lane to play. I'd be interested to see if you want to take that away as well, but it's just the aggressive assassins that can kind of target a lot of these more squishy backliners and these shorter range champions like Lucian, like, you know, Cassio taking off the board.
There's a clear dichotomy of what NIP want and what AL want. Because NIP have something like Lee Sin that brings a lot of damage but no point-and-click CC outside of his kick, he needs a mid laner that can set him up, which is why the Ryze would have worked so well. Twisted Fate, great secondary alternative, because point-and-click, gold card stun, boom. Just put those fries in the bag and allow Guwon to get guaranteed setup onto any target that Kael decides to go for. Now, for anyone's legend, like you pointed out, Talia is a lot stronger this patch than she was before. Pantheon Talia, a very classic combo that can allow Shanks and Tarzan to work together on the map, but the Mel instead to try and rebuttal not only Death Charge, but also gold cards.
You have Spell Shield from Sivir, you have the Reflection from Mel. I mean, there's a lot of disengage on this team. You even have Milio to be able to cleanse everything with the ultimate as well. So, I mean, truly, like, you're talking about the TF having gold card to be able to set up for the rest of NIP for this Lee Sin to dive the backline. I mean, everyone on the team can neutralize Gold Card. It is going to be really tough for this Twisted Fate to find a ton of value. I really like the Gnar pick. Blind Gnar is very punishable, but something like Vayne off the table, instead of going for a more aggressive ADC, it's just going to be the Jace. This is still very positive overall for Hoya, but a lot of responsibility is going to be on Hoya in particular in this game. When you're looking at the ways that this is going to play out, I am worried a bit about the damage in the late game, obviously, for NIP, because it's Jace, Lee Sin, Lucian, even a Twisted Fate. You're not really looking for team fights. You are looking for picks. If you find those picks like you did in game 1, things are going to be just fine. But there are so many defensive tools on anyone's Legend. I think if you were worried about the game 1 draft, this one might be even better for AL, in my opinion.
The one thing I will say about NIP's composition that I think is another strong aspect, if they can execute it well, is you secretly have the makings of a poke composition. Lucian culling, that's a tool that you use in the mid lane to try and open up priority for objectives in the mid game off of that first item spike. Normally, it's better when you have like Nami or Melio with like an Ardent Sensor to make that hit a lot harder. But Jace, poke with culling, plus maybe any wild cards you can throw as Twisted Fate, might not be the most reliable poke in the world, but it is some kind of semblance of a poke composition that NIP, off of a mid game, can try and use to push anyone's Legend around. But I also agree with you that AL's composition, a lot more tools to try and play around the very predictable pick tools that NIP want to use to get ahead in this game.
That's the thing, is all the engage coming in from NIP is not only predictable, but it's only forward. Nautilus can't go backwards after it goes in. Lee Sin has to go in. A lot is going to have to be committed here from NIP. These plays have to work for them.
Oh my god. The NIP fan chants erupt into thunderous applause as they pick off Tarzan for first blood.
It's just, why are we walking there alone? Why are we not predicting a level 1 coming out from a comp that has 800 CC tools? It's just a massive mistake. AL seems so off their game, and NIP aren't even done.
What the hell is going on? Hope and Kael trying to pressure Guwon off of the red buff invite, but Assum had such an aggressive stance, cutting off their escape path, and that gets 2 flashes and a summoner heal for free.
It's disaster for AL. This level 1 genuinely could not go worse than what just happened. Guwon's not even put behind by any of these plays. He's still going to be relatively quick in terms of the clear. Maybe you've got a little bit of vision, but there's no flash here.
Zhuo did have to burn his own flash, but he's got Hex Flash, so for me, anytime support is just relegated to Hex Flash, low-key, I'm just like, that kind of gives you even more combat power just to try and like pull off surprise plays. So NIP are in a great spot. Guwon, don't tell me you're about to do a red buff Krug camp into a level 2 gank, but on 2 flashless targets. Hell yes, you can! Flash! Tempest, crippling strike to guarantee the kill onto Hope, and NIP is off to a thunderous start.
A 1,000 gold lead at 2 minutes, Raafaa. Shanks is trying to fight back onto Kael here, who could be in a little bit of danger. There is quite a bit of damage coming in from Mel. Should have card in just a second to be able to walk out of here, but looks like he might not even need it. Flash gonna come through.
Oh, but he sidesteps the Q from Mel, and there's no rebuttal. Oh, it does not matter. Shanks gets the execute from the passive, and Shanks will finally bring some light to AL's darkest hour.
I guess gold card was just not available for 90% of that chase. What's going on right now, Raafaa? We have a bloodbath on our hands in game number 2.
It's so awesome.
That's something for AL, but I mean, we have the most clearly defined strengths. Oh my god, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm actually panicking right now, Raafaa. I'm having to catch my breath because the invades are now coming through from Guwon, who's looking for Tarzan.
Zhuo is level 2, and he is active. Tarzan has flash available. He's trying to wait until the dredge line comes out. Good patience. He at least secured his Gromp. But now, Guwon is going to take this guy's blue buff.
I talked about Lee Sin not wanting to run into Pantheon. I think if your Nautilus is just like perma with you every time, you'll feel much better about that engage. Worth noting that Tarzan isn't super far behind off of a play like this. It's certainly not the worst thing that could possibly happen to the Pantheon. Level 6 is now the part that you're looking at. I say that, but who knows when the next piece of action is going to happen. Guwon has 2 kills. That level 6 is going to be massive in terms of a power spike for him. But the macro threat of Pantheon is still available. At this point, you're trying to make plays outside of the range of this Lee Sin.
Tarzan trying to catch Guwon off guard, but Stapes barely escapes what could have been a unfortunate Pantheon W stun to the face. It's Assum and Zhuo now starting to feel the pressure of the double range bot lane. Assum taking a huge chunk of HP, as a lot of the trade damage was focused on the Melio rather than Sivir, so Hope is able to maintain a very healthy health bar here, I should say. But that being said, they're able to force this wave pushed in, and unless they freeze it, I think NIP's bot lane are totally fine.
It looks like they're trying to freeze it here, but overall, this is part of the game where, you know, I've been very negative about a Nautilus champion on these casts over the past couple of weeks, and certainly throughout a lot of 2026. I think this is the part of the game where Nautilus, while he can find a lot of value, needs to make sure he continues to put pressure on. This double-range bot lane is eventually going to be able to get a lot of control over that lane back, especially as we get closer and closer to those level 6 power spikes for Kael. Basically keeps Hope entirely safe in the matchup, and you can no longer punish with the Lucian. The gold lead entirely being on the Mel is interesting. It means you have to play around the middle of the map if you're looking for a lot of these plays, but again, it's just coming down to, okay, keeping an eye on the crabs, keeping an eye on the level 6 timers coming in from these junglers. When they get hit, that's when a lot of the action is going to happen. And that's when a lot of these objectives are going to start being prioritized, like this Chem Dragon on the bot side.
Yeah. A few minutes have now passed from all of the chaos and the action in the first two that we saw. While Guwon has 2 kills for himself on the Lee Sin and a sizable gold advantage, Tarzan has been able to keep up in experience. And is practically the same level as Guwon. Tarzan ready to answer a counter gank. Both of his bot laners have all their summoner spells available, so NIP cannot force this one as easily as they did at level 2. Hope and Kael will be able to maintain the wave push.
Yeah, if they overextended there, they were dead. So very good patience from them to not make any sort of massive mistake, and obviously really well played overall from Guwon, who's had a great start to this game. Now Zhuo can walk up again with Pantheon out of the way, and vision control is all theirs. Saw a lot of blue side wards on the bot side in early game 1. We're going to get the same here, just with a different team in control. I really thought Guwon was going to start the dragon there, but with Pantheon's pressure, not going to be what he looks for. Worth noting as well, Kael is basically a full level up on Zhuo, so that Melio level 6 is going to come in a lot faster than it will for the Nautilus.
Definitely be nice for any point-and-click CC that NIP wants to look for. Dragon being the main objective that AL want to get pressure for and deny away from NIP. See if the fight breaks out. Good use of the super mega fireball kick. Punts Zhuo away as he tries to bring himself closer to Hope with that dredge line. While the action died down here, Kman, I want to actually look at the top side of the map, because even though we didn't get any of our top lane super interesting picks, one thing that does make its mark is the Storm Raider Surge for Hoya, which is a completely different version of what Phase Rush used to be.
Absolutely. I think this is a really interesting bring, specifically in this game, because once again, you're looking for a lot of action on the top side of the map, and so having what is essentially just more options to be able to play fights out more aggressive or more passive, that's what Phase Rush typically offered you, is really important as we get a hook down onto the bot side. This Jace is going to be a problem, and if you're worried a bit about, you know, oh, where's the damage going to come from for NIP? You talked about the poke damage coming in. It's not just Jace poke damage that's going to be a problem, it's Jace full engage that's going to be a problem. You have to make sure you're warding on that side of the map, or else, you know, getting engaged upon by Hoya in this instance could actually just lead to your death with some of the overall changes that have happened to Jace and to the game around Jace.
Yeah. There's no real tanks on the side of AL, so exactly. It is a lot easier for Hoya to reliably proc that Storm Raider Surge, which definitely harder to do because you have to do, what, at least 25% max HP in damage within, like, a quick combo. But if you do, you get way more movement speed than you did when it was just Phase Rush. So your ability to quickly disengage or reposition to follow up for another combo or hunt a different target after expending your burst on one different target, it's very, very easy to do, and I'm going to be very excited to see it in action, as I don't think we've yet to really see it affect the laning phase that much, but so far Hoya is at least getting the better end of Flandre, pushing him around, and it's Flandre that has had to respect the pressure so far from this Jace, and neither top laner, or neither jungler I should say, has really gone over to that side of the map to affect it.
It's going to start happening soon. Grub's on the map. Zhuo is on the top side here. NIP are in a very strong spot with Lee Sin here. This should just be a free give over. Tarzan's probably going to want to try to use this level 6 to pressure somewhere else and not just try to contest over these grubs. But that now is the big question, right? We kept talking, oh, level 6 is coming, level 6 is coming. What are we going to do with these ultimates now that they're available? And that becomes even more of a question when you start to look at the bot side. Because of all the attention that has been put in by Guwon and the gold that was given over to Assum and Zhuo early, look at the gold lead that's been generated for Lucian in this lane. He's going to hit that first item power spike significantly earlier than Hope will on the Sivir. And if you're able to really push out on this Lucian and, keep going forward, basically making, Sivir's life as difficult as possible, that's going to be a big win condition off the board for AL. I would imagine Tarzan is going to keep his sights on the bottom side to potentially use that Grand Starfall to really start to affect the bot lane a little bit more.
Sure. And Guwon is also going to be first to hit his item as well with the Thunder Sky Rush over Tarzan, who is now 800 gold behind the curve. Somehow NIP, despite all the posturing that AL had on that first dragon and pushing them around, they still are able to get the first dragon before the grub spawn. Assum now throwing down the culling to try and damage these health bars of Hope and Kael. Trying to ping backwards just to make sure that if Tarzan was crossing somewhere, but they have vision on him crossing into his raptor camp, so NIP know that they are still safe in this laning phase.
Yeah, Tarzan just playing way more passive than I expected on this Pantheon. Have yet to see any aggressive play. I imagine he's a little bit scared because of the item spike coming in from Guwon. Got his first item completed, and Guwon's gonna try to make the most of it here.
Oh, Shanks had rebuttal down, so Kael wanted to force the gold card right on top of it. But it's flash for flash exchange by mid laners here. Shanks still relatively safe if Guwon tries to come back again if rebuttal is available.
Yeah, it's flash for flash, but because of Spellbook for Kael, that's a very advantageous trade for the TS, speaking of.
Let's just gank on the top side. Hoya getting a little bit of love from Kael's Twisted Fate. And they find their third kill of the game.
Again, it's just great play coming in from NIP. It's them being proactive on the map and choosing when these plays happen as opposed to being reactive. Zhuo's going to catch this wave and be able to hold it. Kael misses nothing to make that play onto the top side, and he picks himself up a kill. A massive turn of events in terms of gold in the mid lane. Shanks was the only player on AL that had any sort of lead, and that is now gone, but hold on, Hoya.
Hoya tries to flash. Oh, flashes out of the
is
Comet
he
Spear range, potentially. Oh, and he sidesteps the second Comet Spear. Tarzan has nothing else in the chamber. He can't use the Empowered E because the stacks are not built up. Hoya makes it out alive, and now there's a potential engage onto the bot side. Zhuo flashes forward to extend the depth charge onto Hope. It's a kick onto Kael's face to punt him away from the turret safety. Hope tries to turn around with a boomerang blade, but Assum uses the barrier to preserve his health bar. Guwon with the sonic wave off the safeguard. Oh, Guwon is not even impressed with the emoji showing as well. NIP with another explosive snowball in game 2.
They are styling on them, Raafaa. This is disgusting. I mean, it is a pure execution gap. AL have looked lost all day long. They looked like they have had no idea what they want to do on the map. It's NIP who get to choose everything that happens in this exchange. It's a great engage by Zhuo. Guwon making his way on the wraparound behind the tower in the first place. Hope looked like he was going to be the target, but sure, Kael, if you want to give us your life, that's fine. Hope's like, I guess I pop the ultimate. I get out. I should be fine here. Guwon says, I don't care about your sidestep. I don't care about your positioning. I'm landing that anyways. I'm not impressed. It's pure diff right now. NIP are just playing better than AL, and it's gotten them a 3k gold lead and a second dragon at 12 minutes into this game.
Literally, that was my same reaction. The fan on the right, just super giddy watching the Lee Sin play. Oh my gosh, I am just such a goober for good Lee Sin mechanics on full display, and Guwon is taking full advantage of it in this game too. Now picking up the second dragon. Like you said, Kman, 3,000 gold ahead. This is exactly where NIP want to be with this composition. And while there's definitely some parts of their champions that will get better with more items, this is the best part of the game where they can try and spike and really crush AL before some of their late game insurance policies come online.
I mean, we didn't even talk about it, but one of the big tools for anyone's legend was Pantheon Ultimate, and we were waiting. We were like, where's it gonna go? It's massive. This first Ultimate's gonna dictate whether or not AL can play the mid game at all. It's used topside to clean up a kill that they weren't able to get, and then it's wasted. It's over. Hoya completely outplays Tarzan, and that big tool is off the table. It's a 1.2k gold lead in the jungle. Tarzan needs to start stepping up now. You're absolutely right that this is the part of the game that NIP need to keep their foot on the gas for, because, you know, eventually you hit a point where AL's going to have a pretty easy time at least going backwards. This Nautilus is going to start to become a lot more useless with the fact that you have so many different ways to disengage him in these fights, but it doesn't really matter if Nautilus gets disengaged if you have a 5 or a 6k gold lead, because Nautilus won't die even if he is disengaged, and eventually that Lee Sin will hit the backline. So you need to use these tools now. For as much as AL scales, it's not like they just scale for free. They need gold onto priority targets, and that's just not something they have right now.
Yeah. Once again, this is a game where there's no true front line either. Zhuo is going to be the closest thing to it, and he's on support budget. So he is less durable than the average front line you might find from a Scion or an Ornn or a Cassante. But by being ahead of the curve and having completed a Protoplasm Harness instead of any of the other kind of cheap support items like a Locket or even a Zeke's just to bring more utility, this Nautilus is actually pretty darn tanky for the state of the game. So anyone's Legend now have to pay a lot more respect to Nautilus because he's going to bring all the CC, he's going to deal a decent amount of base damage. And unfortunately for AL, their top laner just has to accept that, well, there's 4 people in my top lane. I'm gonna die.
Yeah, unfortunately, Flandre not super respectful of the Nautilus in that particular exchange, getting completely CC chained down into Oblivion. I mean, no outplay there. No way to be able to deal with that. That's first tower going over to NIP, and it's just more and more gold. I guess it's not first tower. It's, you know, pushing forward a little bit. But it's still top lane tower going down. Awesome. Even the target in the mid lane doesn't matter. Just get to dash out, press my R button. I'm all well and good. Every play AL are looking for is not going their way, and now they could be pincered around this arrow.
Tarzan tries to jump onto one on the left. Guwon, though, looks to the back line and pressures Hope out of it. Popping the barrier, Zhuo flashes away before the rest of AL can try and punish. Oh, a flash Sonic Wave looking for Kael, gets his own flash. The Rift Herald barely resets. Hope is incredibly low. Almost dies to one swipe of the Rift Herald, but AL are investing a lot of their numbers here just to guarantee one objective, one good thing to go their way, and the Rift Herald belongs to them.
Yeah, NIP actually TPing Kael in, which is a very aggressive choice here. He's just going to hold the gold card, walk away, and overall, it's kind of okay for anyone's Legend. I mean, anything you can get at this point is going to be considered a positive, but we can talk about the idea of the comp. That's the idea of the comp. NIP feel like they find all these different engages, 3 or 4 different ways onto the backline, but with so many different ways to disengage coming in from AL, it's really hard to lock down any of their primary carries through Milio, through Sivir Spell Shield, through the Reflect from Mel, even the point-and-click stun from Pantheon to keep their primary carries safe. It obviously just gets really difficult. NIP still need to make sure they're not making a ton of mistakes. It's a gold positive play for them, but you don't really want to allow AL to feel comfortable going backwards, even at all, with this comp.
Yep. Definitely one of the first signs of life of AL in this second game, where you saw a lot of the power of their composition being able to counter directly the tools that NIP wanted to use as we look back at the replay.
Yeah, I really like the trade early on from Assum because obviously it makes Hope a lot weaker for this fight, and once the Shock Blast lands, this Sivir is in like real danger, but we don't have time for a replay.
Oh no. Tarzan flashes over the wall, trying to intercept before they finish off Flandre, but the end result still remains the same. Now, can they finish off Guwon? But it's a great kick. Can they finish him off? Guwon finally dies to the Golden Eclipse, but the rest of NIP are carrying on the fight and waving the flag on their side. Tarzan tries to go back in, but Shanks is popping up, finds a triple. Is this a penta in the making? Can he get in range? He has flash available. Tarzan has to set it up for him. Tarzan denies the penta dream, but anyone's Legend are definitely roaring back to life.
Oh, that is a big problem for ninjas in Pyjamas. This Herald's gonna get dropped. That's a lot of gold going into the pocket of the Mel, who is the one champion who has the easiest time being able to deal with a lot of the damage coming in from NIP. I hate to just keep pushing the draft point home, but eventually you have to look and you have to see, okay, we have all of these tools to go forward. What happens if AL don't screw up? What happens if they don't make mistakes when they're going backwards? All of a sudden, these carries do have tools to be able to fight. Shanks is sitting on 4 kills, has just completed Rocket Belt, and is really strong on this Mel. If there was an avenue back into the game, they may have just found it.
Massive gold swing as well, where Shanks, the only member on his team that has a positive gold difference, just in time for the third dragon of the game. Despite NIP finding the first two, AL are now going to feel a lot more confident in being able to contest this third dragon, and we'll see what Ninjas in Pyjamas decide to do. They're definitely not postured for it, so they're just letting it go. Can they find anything to get in exchange? And so far, it's just a push in the mid wave and maybe taking a crab.
It's really well played by AL. It seems like their brains have turned back on after the first couple of games. It hasn't exactly been the most clinical of League from anyone's legend across the beginning part of this series, but we definitely see a big fight for them here as we get the replay. It looks like they found the pick. It looks like this is going to be a game-breaking kind of mistake, but Guwon on this Lee Sin has so much of the gold, even with the kick going in perfectly onto the Pantheon. Look at the backline. Shanks is free hitting. Zhuo is trying to get onto priority targets and CC them down, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, yeah, turret's going to be alive, and everyone's going to stay alive. No one's dead as we come out of the replay.
And Kael just uses the Destiny to port immediately out and away from danger. Flandre and potentially Tarzan could have tried to use their own tools to collapse onto that tier 2 turret siege. Tier 1 turret getting attacked by NIP will not be able to take it out just yet, as Guwon looks for an invade, trying to steal more resources away from anyone's legend, but it's a Grand Starfall from Tarzan. Flandre goes into Mega, scoops Guwon right back into AL's waiting arms, but it's a kick flash for the perfect disengage, as Guwon does live to see another day.
Yeah, the kick flash was nice, but that's a lot of resources burned by AL, and it took them so long to get any sort of damage dealers there. It was just Tarzan and Flandre trying to take down a Lee Sin that has quite a bit of gold at this point in the game, so quite a greedy use of the Pantheon ultimate. I understand wanting to go for kind of a, I don't want to say a desperation play, but trying to find those picks where you can, but fortunately that's a big cooldown now burned, and Baron is technically up on the map. We're past the 20-minute mark, so with that big global down and pressure on the top side coming in from NIP, that should be full vision control, at the very least, over this major objective to the blue side.
If AL have to respect any carry at this point, it's gotta be Assum solution. It's probably your #1 target that you want to try and save your CC for, and unfortunately for AL, your most reliable CC is also in your Pantheon, who has to kind of make the jump forward with either that ultimate engage or maybe a flash empowered W. Otherwise, Flandre's going to have to find a hell of a flank to catch Assum by surprise, as the Baron comes online already about a minute ago. We're 2.5 minutes from another dragon hitting Summoner's Rift. The rest of anyone's legend might try and at least force NIP to face check this, but there is a ward on the Baron. They don't know.
That's the problem. That's exactly what I'm talking about, is you need vision control over that area. I tried to be as specific as I possibly could, that is the big reason why burning a lot of those resources is bad, but doesn't really end up getting punished too much. Red side's still going to have control over that top side, but again, look at the vision in the river. This mid lane tower is going to go down. That is a bit of gold for NIP, but as long as AL play patient, they're not really losing too much here, and there's no real counterplay to be made, as Ninjas in Pyjamas are walking all over a very warded top side here for anyone's legend.
Kael using the ultimate defensively just to get eyes on every single panda. Gold card will be fished out onto maybe Tarzan. They don't have the extended range. Dredgeline just pulls him in. Blue buff was secured. Rest of NIP don't go for an engage, but AL don't necessarily find anything either. Do they want to rip the Baron? Now, finally, the control ward spots the one ward that was giving NIP vision on that Baron pit this entire time.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing a lot of damage with that Jace poke. If you're in the area, you have to make sure that Hoya is positioning correctly, but it should be noted that NIP are 3,000 gold up, and they're the ones that feel like they have to run away from a Baron push, or at least a small fight in the mid game here. They can't really afford to make a mistake, and they recognize that. I know this game feels like it's very much in favor of Ninjas in Pyjamas, and it is still very much in their favor. They should have control over this, but you can't really afford to make a mistake with this game state and with the comp that you've drafted for yourselves. Assum and Hoya are going to do so much, and a flash kick from Guwon could end the fight immediately, but if those plays don't come out, and if you play a standard fight, AL will have at the very least a chance of being able to pick up a win despite being down so much gold. Notably, that's Dragon coming up in about 30 seconds. It would be soul point again for Ninjas in Pyjamas, and they want to try and get to that soul as quickly as possible. Getting extra damage onto these carries will be paramount with the Infernal Soul.
If NIP want to be able to force this dragon, they need to get Hoya in position. He's got more mana fully stacked up on the Jace, and the Voltaic Cyclosword is an extremely powerful item on this patch. It's already has nerfs slated for the next patch, just because everyone recognizes how incredibly OP it is for an item to apply current HP damage, not just on auto attacks, but abilities. Hoya looks for a Shock Blast, decent damage on the Kael. Tarzan is the first one to try and engage. Hope pops the ultimate. They want to push this further. Zhuo is forced to flash backwards. The Protoplasm procs. And he's able to survive, but AL, with the aggression, are able to push NIP out. And they're going to secure their the fourth dragon of the game.
I mean, it's a dragon. Like, it's good to pick it up. I mean, you are going to lose quite a bit of gold in this exchange because of the good work that Kael is doing on the top side to continue the split push. But basically, NIP were just seeing what they could get out of that exchange. They never intended to contest or even attempt to try and fight that because of the split push on the top side. It's interesting to see that NIP are valuing being able to pick up side lane objectives more than trying to fight as a group right now. But once again, it should go to show you that there is some concern about, hey, we can go forward forever. Eventually, we have to try and make sure that they can't go backwards, and the tools to do that are growing, but still not quite perfect. I feel it's important to note Assum has hit third item. Guardian Angel also been completed now onto Guwon. That is a massive power spike that the Pantheon really has no way to be able to answer. This would be a big spot for NIP to fight.
Dude, Guwon doesn't even have tier 2 boots. He's just rocking the slightly magical brown bags he got from runes. All of his gold has just been trying to maintain that item disparity over Tarzan's Pantheon so that he has that effective wallet difference in these fights. But now, NIP's window is starting to close a bit because, like you said, Kman, there is a point where anyone's legend can still already absorb pretty easily a lot of these single target picks spells that NIP have at their disposal, and there's not going to be any more side lane turrets to easily get as you get closer and closer to anyone's Legends base.
Raafaa, think about how close this game could have been if level 1 wasn't so much of a disaster for anyone's Legend. I mean, they've actually played the mid game relatively well. They've been patient. They've been successful at going backwards. They've never really overextended. You know, they've actually been in a good spot, considering especially where the gold is at, but I mean, they have put themselves in such a hole just due to their massive mistakes early on in the game. If they are going to pull themselves out of it, they're going to need to overperform, maybe what you would expect from a team in this spot. I think stacking these Infernal Dragons is really important, but again, what I think they've done a really good job of is dissuading a lot of NIP's plays through vision itself, being able to say, hey, if you want side lane pressure, that's great. We're going to get vision coverage over whatever major objective is up on the map, and we're going to make sure that you're not in a spot where you can rush it or even really force it under any circumstances. NIP might have to make a desperation play here onto the Baron.
Kael's pushing on the top side, has Destiny available. Anyone's Legend, what do you want to do? Do you want to try and get some vision into the Baron? Do you want to wrap around on Kael? They're posturing over the Baron pit wall. They put a control ward down and immediately NIP peel off the objective while Kael is now threatening into the inhibitor turret. As long as NIP can keep anyone's Legend here, Kael is going to get some major damage, maybe to take the whole turret. They force the engage. Tarzan just goes for the W raw,
Shanks.
But they are now forced to back. Kael comes in with the Destiny, tries to corral them off. Guwon has the GA, flashes away just to make sure he doesn't pop it too quickly. Golden Eclipse finds Hoya, makes it a 1-for-0 so far in favor of anyone's Legend, but it's a 1-for-1. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of NIP. Assum just blasting foes one after another. And don't tell me it just ends like this. NIP find the gold card on a Kael, and Guwon layers it up with the Sonic Wave. They're gonna push into the base.
It's a massive mistake from anyone's Legend. They separate in the fight and get pulled apart because of it. NIP are just cleaner in terms of their execution. Their gold lead does come back into fruition there. Assum is just too strong. He melts through the front line of Tarzan, and there's nobody to protect a lot of the damage dealers. This looks like an okay setup for AL. It looks like they're going to full engage onto the front line, but this comp is not good at going forward. They're better at going backwards. The moment that kick comes through, and Shanks is essentially separated entirely from the back line, Kael is the one who eats all of that damage on the front line. Look at where Flandre is. He's so much of the tank stats for AL, and now all of your damage dealers are basically being free hit by this Lucian on the back line. It's poorly executed from AL. They don't end up positioning well at all. Shanks doesn't get time to free fire with all the gold. And NIP, once again, you can talk about the macro plays. You can talk about the mistakes that AL are making. At the end of the day, NIP are outplaying anyone's legend here today in every single fight. And it shows in terms of where the gold is at right now.
I did not expect the fight was going to be ending so poorly for AL off of that rotation there, especially considering that Hoya was the first member to kind of go down in the exchange, but NIP just able to force so many isolated skirmishes, 1v1 scenarios, and despite all of the tools that can immune CC, hang on, Care immediately backs up from the Grand Starfall, and the rest of NIP are there to back him up. It's a 9,000 gold advantage for the Ninjas in Pyjamas. Now with Baron buff on their side, they have officially broken open the base of the Pandas. Inhibitor exposed in the mid lane, now exposed in the top lane, and AL are running out of options fast.
They are. This inhibitor is going to go down. They're going to try to make a play on a Care instead. He's just going to walk his way out. He's perfectly fine.
Dude, he's so fast. The Swifty boots have allowed him to escape so many scenarios where anyone's legend were trying to lock him down but could never get in range to do it. I have to say, between the Annie game and the Twisted Fate game, these are not necessarily the flashiest of champions, but he has been so reliable. He has been so proficient on them.
Yeah.
Okay, man, what? I mean, maybe he doesn't get player of the game if this is a win for NIP, because Assum's Lucian was picked up and he delivered. But I'm just saying, I think honorable mention needs to be shouted out here.
Look, I mean, we gave a lot of credit to Shanks in the pre-show. One of these mid laners has been better than the other here today. That's been on display for NIP as they continue to use this Baron buff to just completely open up the base for themselves against AL. This could be a game-ending push if Tarzan oversteps here.
Culling opens up. Hope immediately loses 50% of his HP. Shanks dropped to nearly a quarter. Immediately, NIP are leveraging this into breaking open the final inhibitor. Now all three are gone. Double super minions will be pouring in, and NIP will try to just finish the game, and Assum just gets flashed on. He's exploded by the Golden Eclipse, but Guwon with the Warthog insect will punt away one back as the rest of NIP try to push it in for the Game 2 and the series win over anyone's legend. Nexus exposed. There's nothing the Pandas can do, and the Ninjas in Pyjamas will end AL's win streak and give themselves a 2-0 win.
Oh, Raafaa, the moment we began to give up hope, the moment we thought we had lost our belief, our confidence in this team, here we go. We're back. We're so back. I mean, we've never been more back than maybe we are right now. Ninjas in Pyjamas, they were just better. I'm sorry. Like, there's no way to describe this series. There is no way to talk about this series in an objective fashion, in a, draft-oriented conversation without first saying one of these two teams played every fight better than the other. And that's why Ninjas in Pyjamas are walking out of this with a win. Beautiful series from everybody involved. And you know what? I mean, NIP at some point has to actually be considered a real threat here in the LPL. We're going to be looking at the standings in just a second. This team isn't as far out from top 4 as maybe you would think if some of these teams start to drop some games.
Okay, man, I want to go back before we get to our player of the series and all those other awards and that the official broadcast will throw down. I want to look at our draft graphic for Game 2, because I think this adaptation from Ninjas in Pyjamas is such a incredibly bold but also very fun adaptation. And it all comes from what I'm going to call the Melio Gambit from anyone's legend that they threw down, which ended poorly for them. But I appreciate that it was a gambit to begin with.
I mean, they basically go for this full disengage comp with all of the engage tools on the other side, and Melio is the best disengage champion in the game right now. And so I understand why you would feel good about that. You get that big combo off of NIP's shoulders, but I don't know, man. The Gambit failed. If the Gambit was, let's give Assum his best champion and see if we can win, sorry, man, that's maybe not what I'm opting into. You can get me with a different Gambit next to, maybe take the Lucian on that exchange. Maybe that's the moral.
So here's
the
the funny thing. While we're waiting on the Game 2 draft graphic, I can go ahead and kind of name off some of the things that were in the NIP Anyone's Legend series the first time they encountered each other, which, by the way, y'all, was an Anyone's Legend 2-0 win back in week 4. So in that second game, Orianna is left open and NIP go for it as their first pick, and then immediately AL go for Lucian Melio. They snap that up. Whereas in this one, Orianna still banned by NIP. So going into first pick, AL weigh their options here and say, what do we grab? We know that NIP want this Lucian Melio super badly. We dissuaded the Lucian Melio by just banning the Melio in the first game. So we figure that the Melio is far more important, and they probably, I don't know if they thought to themselves that they will not pick the Lucian, or that we're going to essentially separate these two. This is very similar to how a lot of bot lanes are trying to figure out how to avoid the Ashe Seraphine debacle, right? Do you try and separate them? Do you play them with different combinations? And I think the biggest disadvantage when this draft opens up, if you were not to look at the team names on paper, I agree with you, Kman, that a lot of these tools work very well in trying to stop what this blue side composition wants to do. But remember who is now forced to be on Melio duty. It is Kael. And what does he want to do? He wants to roam with Tarzan. He wants to roam with him and Shanks, and they want to be a 3-man death squad. You can't do that as Melio. In fact, Zhuo gets to do that as Nautilus.
Yeah. I think that there are some key pieces of context that make this draft even worse. I think, obviously, on paper, draft is really important, and everybody likes to, claim that draft is like the end-all be-all. Draft is really important. It's 20% of an equation, which I think is a big piece, right? Like, there aren't a lot of pieces that are going to be as high as 20%. I think we were in a spot where level 1 was a disaster. And if there is one thing that this draft cannot do, it's lose level 1. It's the only thing you have to avoid. It's really like the main problem that you have is AL is sitting there going, we have no tools in the early game. We are going to hit a point where as long as they don't have so much gold that they can just keep running into us, we can go backwards. We can play slower. We can control space and tempo with a lot of our vision control. We have ways to play it out, but you're right. Kael was off of his ability to be able to play the map, which meant that Tarzan was super inactive in this game. The first Pantheon ultimate we got was completely wasted onto Hoya on the top side. They didn't even pick up the kill. The second couple ultimates also weren't always very valuable either. It really just came down to, okay, if you're going down in gold, you have to catch up eventually. It doesn't matter what your draft is. If you're down 2,000 gold 3 minutes into the game, you're gonna be playing from behind.
Starts with this.
Certainly.
Just
and we didn't even see it here. This is another great, this is a great play from Guwon, obviously, but the reason he can make this play is because they also got all of the summoners bot lane in a random rotation around red buff. It's disaster.
Yeah, when you said that you cannot contest them level 1, you cannot get absolutely smashed level 1, you have to wonder, what are the comms? What is the theory behind AL's bot lane posturing so aggressively in the enemy red quadrant when their Pantheon just died on the opposite side of the map? Like, are you expecting them to then just try and go for the top side red camps instead and not be there? Like, maybe. And to that point, I don't know if I can fault them for that. It's like, oh, well, we guessed wrong. But are you is it worth to take those kind of risks when, as you stated, level 1 is the time to not risk that? Yeah.
I think of all the teams to do this, Ninjas in Pyjamas and AL are not the teams that I would have wanted them to be. I'm not sure if you're muted, Raafaa. I can no longer hear you. I don't know if that's me or
I
you.
DC'd. I DC'd from the
He's
Discord.
Back.
That's
We're back. We're excellent. Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think AL, Ninjas in Pyjamas, they're, like, you can't make this mistake against Guwon. Of course he's going to invade. Of course he's going to go and take the red. Do you know this guy at all? Like, this is all he does. And it goes back to game 1 as well, right? This isn't just a game 2 problem. You invade on Raptors, and you bring Kael up, and the rotation comes through, and you overstay, and you die in the same zone. And it's just... I mean, it's horrible early game plays. We can talk about AL's mid games. They were bad, especially in game number 1, but their early games were the worst they've ever been. This is maybe the single worst early game series that they have played as this group of 5 players, and that's just not a recipe for success. You don't need me to tell you that.
This is very reminiscent of their early season games at the beginning of Split 2. I think back to some of their games against top esports specifically, where they were just contesting things that they had no business contesting. And it almost seemed like it was kind of like, whether they're limit testing, whether they feel comfortable in their position of the standings at the top to be like, okay, well, let's see what NIP are going to do. Like, we're number 2 in the standings. Go ahead and actually, if our wonderful producer can bring up the standings graphic, and we can see how the changes in tonight's series reflect now in the scoreboard. Obviously, AL still at the top 4, but because they took a series loss, they are now tied with JDG for second. NIP still at 5th, or what's up?
I believe that these were the records going into the series, if I'm incorrect.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah.
I believe that NIP is now 5-5, and this would put AL at 7-4, tied with top esports in terms of series score.
That's
unless
right.
I am
That's
incorrect.
Right. No, you're right, because I remember seeing 7-3 as well. So, yeah. So AL, top esports, tied for 3rd. JDG, sole possession of 2nd. BLG at 1st, whereas NIP don't change, even though they're now 5-5 rather than 4.